Welcome back to the 0 to KSH challenge, where we need just 200 points to achieve Keystone Hero. Because this week we start at an item level of 431 and a Mythic Plus rating of 2300. First things first, we're going to jump into a normal raid, and unfortunately for me, we cleared absolutely everything and not a single bit of loot. I jumped into LFR for the last boss, the beacon dropped, and of course I didn't win it. One day, man, one day. And then we find ourselves here on a Wednesday morning, the weekly reset. And this week we have Legion Time Walk-ins. By completing 5 Legion Time Walk-ins, you can get your hands on a 415 Aberrus cache. But of course, like mentioned many times before, this actually contains any item within the raid, apart from tier. So I could still get beacon? So we smash through the Time Walk-ins and we find ourselves at the vault. And it's no secret now, you guys already know what I want. Of course, that is the beacon. That's the only thing I really want. I don't have it on any of my active characters, and it's kind of like the Grief Torch for Season 1. It may not even be best in slot for me at this point, but I still want it. So we open the Aberrus cache, and this one starts with some disappointment because I received some 424 hands. And obviously because I'm already wearing myth hands, these are completely useless. And then we go to open the vault, and this was quite possibly the hardest choice I have ever had to make with any of my characters on any of my vaults. So we obviously don't get beacon, and the rest of the raid gear is completely useless. But we do get the choice of 3 myth items. One being a really good Bis ring, one being myth shoulders that could replace our hero tier, and the last one was a weapon. Now here was the dilemma I was facing. I've struggled with rings quite a lot, so this was a tempting one. That said, it doesn't actually come with any main stat. On the other hand, shoulders do come with main stat, and it would replace a hero piece. And then you have the weapon, and weapons for me are incredibly hard to turn down. Though that said, it comes with some pretty terrible stats. I mean, all that mastery, using a Crusader Strikes build, it just wouldn't be great. So I had to really take my time with this one, and I reached out to a fellow paladin, which will not be named for their protection. And although we both agreed that it's very hard to turn down a weapon, and it was very debatable, I decided to take the shoulders. Yeah, this one still hurts. However, we will discuss weapons and come back to this a little bit later. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you think I made a massive mistake. With the new shoulders equipped, it takes our total item level up to 432. We then went and converted shoulders and our hero headpiece. We then upgraded those shoulders and head along with the weapon we got from last week's weekly. We finally spent the KSM token on a hero chest, and we went ahead and made sure everything was enchanted. So weapons. Last week we had the heroic Aberrus cache weekly, where we had to do 4 mythic dungeons, and this gave us the infernal Shade Lance. I didn't really look into this because I presumed the Ashkander was just far superior. I had to do quite a bit of simming for the vault to then determine what I should pick, and even before I upgraded the Shade Lance, it was simming far higher than the weapon from the vault. So that's what pushed me towards the shoulders, because obviously over the ring, the shoulders gave me a load of main stat. So if anyone was curious about my decision making, that's pretty much what it came down to. And yes, the Shade Lance sims a little higher than the Ashkander, and from a handful of paladins that I have been speaking to, the Ashkander's actually quite a bit of a sim bait. So there's that to consider as well. I don't know, man, it still served me pretty well. So with all my gear sorted, done and dusted, it takes our total item level up to 434. So we need 200 points to finish this challenge and achieve Keystone Hero. The key we are presented with today is a Vortex Pinnacle 18, and this week's affixes are Fortified, Entangling and Bolstering. However, instead of starting off running my own key, I decide to sign up to a few others. Surprisingly, it doesn't take us very long, and we get ourselves into an Underrot 17. Now, the first pack in Underrot is typically where you would pop Bloodlust. The tank would gather the Matron, the Maggot, drag them into the Headhunter pack, pop Bloodlust and nuke them down. At least on a fortified week anyway. On tyrannical weeks, you would typically use Bloodlust on the bosses. Now, of course, this wasn't discussed, there was very little communication, and I think all players just assumed that everyone was on the same page. So it doesn't get used to begin with, and we end up using Bloodlust on the first boss. I mean, it's fine, it's not the end of the world. The rest of the dungeon goes absolutely fine, and we find ourselves at the last boss, and this is where it gets a little wonky. Now, usually you kite this guy around the room as the tank, and all the party members stack on you. So usually you would bait the boss's ability, Vile Expulsion, behind you in the opposite direction you're kiting the boss. So usually the boss does its cast, all party members then move through the boss, You move away from all the mess on the floor, and then you move back through the boss and reposition so that you can bait the ability in the same direction as before. That way it doesn't go everywhere and you can continue to move around the room. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. Well, this guy just didn't want to move. It was a bit messy at times, but we did end up taking down this boss, and we end up timing this key, which takes our total rating up to 2,322. We did receive a weapon from the chest, but it was no good to us, so we traded it to the paladin. We then decide to jump into our own key, a Vortex Pinnacle 18. Now, this one started off with an interesting pull, one that I kind of like, but I can see it being very problematic for most pugs, at least at this level. Oh well, at least no one important died, right? Silly hunters. Now, this was actually a pretty smooth run up until some of the last ad packs before the last boss. And here is where we are going to skip a pack that I have never skipped before, and I actually really like it. Unless of course you have a hunter in the group. Wait, hold on. This guy's actually blaming me? Alright, let's rewind that back. Alright, so I'm following behind the hunter. Everything's going fine, and we're just gonna stop it here. Yeah, pretty sure that wasn't me. As if I needed more reasons to dislike hunters. We do eventually get the skip right, we get to the last boss, and we do take down this guy to time the key, and it takes our total rating up to 2,334. But if we didn't wipe on that ad pack, then we could have plus 2'd this one, and our key would have turned into a plus 20. Oh well. I did get a neck piece that I was very excited for because I am still holding on to a 411 veteran piece. However, my excitement is cut short because I realise it is not the choker I'm looking for. Yeah, I thought it was the other neck, I got excited, it wasn't. Oh well. Hey you! Yeah, you! Are you enjoying the series so far? Do you want to be just as lucky as I am with all this loot? Then why not show your appreciation by leaving this video a like? It helps the channel out, makes me happy, but more importantly, gives you the best loot in your weekly vault. Alright, back to the video. The next key we decide to sign up for is a Halls of Infusion 18. From the VP we did get an Alderman 19, but after 40 minutes of trying to find a healer, I just got tired of waiting around, so I decided to disband the group. I got into this Halls of Infusion 18, and I think after struggling to form the group and spending so much time sat there trying to find a healer, my head clearly wasn't in the right place because I forgot to press record. Oh man, I'm so mad at myself, and I only realised as we took down the last boss. Which is super upsetting because something really heroic happened right at the end where the tank died to the gauntlet. We finished off the ads, I had to tank the boss, which was fine because I had bubble. I combat res the tank then picked up the boss, and we took him down, and that felt great. So the fact that I messed up the recording 2 weeks in a row, man, the same dungeon as well. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm really disappointed in myself. So we did actually plus 2 the key, it took our total rating up to 2,360, and we don't get any loot from the chest, which honestly, I don't deserve it, I messed up. Alright, back to my key then, Alderman 19. Finally, after what felt like an hour of waiting for a healer, I finally get this group going. And 19s is such an awkward number, like barely anyone wants to do 19s. Why can't you just be a 20? Now, this one didn't start off well. Once again, no communication from the tank. And here is typically where groups do things differently. I mean, pretty much in the same way, it's just about how much you want to pull. Now, I make a bit of a stupid mistake. I decide to use Divine Storm because, you know, it goes burr. I didn't realize how far the tank was going to go, and obviously I took aggro and died. I get back to the group as quick as possible. The tank is calling for blood loss, and unfortunately I think it's just a little bit too much for both the tank and the healer. Because we now have all of these bolstered mobs, the tank is sitting on 3 hefty bite dots, and I guess we just don't have the damage to get the ads down quick enough. So yeah, a little communication goes a long way. From here the tank decides to rush back in without everyone else, the rest of the group struggle to get back to the tank, and this causes a series of deaths. Now, the tank pulling a little bit too much for either themselves or the group happened a little often. This caused many deaths throughout the entire dungeon, and it was because of this that we didn't end up timing the run. So we did get to the last boss 6 minutes over time. It took a further 3 minutes to get the boss down, and it took our total rating up to 2,384. But honestly, looking back at it now, the damage was actually kind of low, considering everyone was around 440. Kind of expected a bit more, considering this was a 19. Oh well, it is what it is. On to the next one. And our next key is a Nelfaris 18. And well, this week the chains were nerfed quite heavily. Well, I don't think the chains were nerfed itself, it's just the mobs that are affected by the chains. So Nelfaris, before the nerfs, you could basically use the chains to get the majority of your count. You could do some incredibly huge pulls, and with your entire party using the chains, the mobs just literally disappear. However, now you have to do things a little differently, and I wasn't fully aware of which mobs at this point could actually be stunned and take damage from the chains. So I was just kind of following the tank blindly on this one. To their credit, they were a really good tank. They did a very good job, and this was a pre-made, so I was kind of hopeful going into this one. But yeah, it was a good group. Nothing much to cover from this run, a few silly little deaths here and there. We time this key and it takes our total rating up to 2,410. The next key we are presented with is a Freehold 19, and this one is a very popular place. So it really didn't take long for a buttload of players to sign up, even at a 19. So I get together a pretty decent comp and we get started. We make our way to the arena of the first boss, and I watched this quite a few times back to realize what happened. But there are some abilities in this game that they just do their own thing. For example, my Judgment and Divine Toll on the Paladin. Hunters are usually pretty bad when we've finished a pack because they carry on pressing their abilities, it targets another ad pack, and that's typically how they would end up ninjaing an additional pack. Though in this case it looks like the Fire Breath ability from the Evoker. How this manages to clip and go through the floor, I have no idea. But yeah, there are far too many crack shots and enforcers, it's just too much for the group to handle, and we end up wiping. The group make a very questionable decision and they decided to release and try and run back in and kill them. Like, we were never going to kill that pack. You might as well just stay dead, let them reset, and just continue from there. But yeah, there were a lot of silly little mistakes throughout the entire dungeon. We get to the last boss with 20 deaths, but we're doing alright for time. The last boss goes down absolutely fine. We do in fact time this key and it takes our total rating up to 2,439. And this meant we had a plus 20 key for the very first time. Now that was exciting. So, for the very first time, we were about to jump into a plus 20 on the Paladin. Now, unfortunately, the 20 key that I got was an Alderman, and I really didn't want to go back there. So, I was a little optimistic, and I tried signing to some Nelfarian's layer 20s. I really didn't expect to get any invites. But after many declines, I finally get into one. And here is where I can really prove myself. Not so much to everyone else, but just to myself. Like, can I really hold my own in a plus 20? So this was it, my first plus 20. The group was formed and we got going. The first lot of ad packs were going down really well, and of course Divine Storm go brrr. But then Dilly has one of his bright ideas where I decide to get the boss going as quick as possible because the RP can obviously be started earlier and it just saves that little bit of time. Yeah, shut up, I don't want to hear it. What would a Dilly series be without one of these? And I can't believe, oh, come on man, I did this on the Monk, now I've done it on the Paladin. When am I going to learn? I even had Bubble available and I didn't use it. Anyway, the first boss goes down absolutely fine, and I'm actually very happy to see that I've been smashed in damage, because Rhett's single target is really bad. We move on from here and we get to the ad packs where we start seeing some of these pesky little pelters. And I think I've touched on this a couple of times, but if you're going to DPS these guys, just cleave them down. If you target them, they're going to start jumping away. And then Divine Storm does not go burr. Oh, and I kind of lose concentration at some point and I walk through the breaker and yeah, I take a frontal. You don't want to be standing in front of the ads either. That's another dilly dup. Ah, the life of a melee. We do get to the second boss with 17 deaths and time is starting to wear a little thin. We lose both the healer and the priest, and here is where I start doubting the group. I just didn't feel like at this point we were going to time it. We picked them both up, but here is where I should have stuck to my guns and marked one of the totems. You can clearly see that I'm following what I feel like is the correct one, but then at the last second, I trust the Demon Hunter, who seems pretty confident that they've got the right one. Yeah, next time I'm being stubborn. We end up taking down this boss. Naraxtus surprisingly goes really well, and here is where the key kind of falls apart. So my positioning here for the ads is absolutely awful. I get hit by an avalanche and a frontal, and I die instantly. On the run back, the group completely falls apart, and it seems that the shaman and the priest both die to avalanche. The demon hunter and the mage also die, and eventually we find ourselves at the last boss with 1 minute overtime. We don't even have 100% count. Oh man, this sucks. We end up finishing this boss. We take down some adds to get the remaining percent, but this one was a tough one to take. And the overall damage for this place? Well, I wasn't even happy with mine, so I'm not sure about the other two. But yeah, this guy can do 20s. Even though we didn't time this run, it still took our rating up to 2,473. And we still had one place that would give us a lot of score. And that was, of course, Brackenhide Hollow. And if you thought the last one was good, well, boys and girls, you're in for a treat because this one's even better. Alright, so Brackenhide 18. I wasn't quite sure of the calculation, but there was a possibility by timing this key, we would achieve KSH. We got off to a rocky start. We had a few deaths, one including me. I required a bit of healing, and just as I go to spend Holy Power on Word of Glory, the debuff gets to me first. Alright, 9.5 minutes in, we finally get to the first boss. As always, I tend to help out with the Gash Frenzy as much as I can, and everything else seems to be going fine. If we can get past this with very little issue, there is a very good chance we end up timing this key. We take down the warband, and we make our way to the second boss. We take down Treemouth with 15 minutes remaining on the timer, and I see this message. So, not only do we have 15 minutes remaining on the dungeon, but all servers shut down in 15 minutes. So, the race was on. Now, we got to the cross section where you would typically skip the stalkers, especially on fortified weeks, and we were in the best spot, because both ad packs were very split. We start taking down the vultures, and unfortunately we lose both the tank and the druid. Still not quite sure how the blood DK managed to die to the vultures, but yeah. And then we have the unfortunate incident where the priest is standing a little close to the edge and this happens. This obviously caused a wipe. We do eventually get to Gutshot and take him down, and we have 10 minutes remaining. But this is where I get a little frustrated because the tank pulls the 5th caller ad and he just stands there. We've got less than 10 minutes, man, let's go! Yeah, if you're tanking this, by the way, everyone should just be interrupting this guy and you drag him into the next lot of ads. Finally, we managed to cross the bridge, and here is where I'm not quite sure if the tank realizes, but all of these withering ads, if you pull one of them, you pretty much pull all of them, right? So the fact that he pulls them all to the side, and they end up running through some of the rest of the ads that typically you don't tend to pull. Yeah, this one got a bit messy too. We do end up managing to take it all down because, you know, Divine Storm go brr. And we move on to the next set of callers, which once again, the tank decides to pull just the 2. And considering we're very low on percentage, they should just pull them into the next group. But no, of course, we skip them and we move into the cave. We finish off every ad inside the cave and we need an additional 2% to finish the count. I rush off to go and pull the vial from the other side, just outside the cave. And as you can see, this mob gives 2%, so this is exactly what we need. But then, the tank has other ideas and continues to pull more. I try telling the tank to pull this mob to the boss, because we only have 4 minutes remaining. The tank continues to pull, and everything turns into chaos. This of course leads to a wipe. I try explaining to the tank that we only needed the 1 mob. They of course disagreed and said we needed 23. Nope, they meant 2. I mean, it definitely looks like we pulled 23. I mentioned to the tank that this 1 mob gave us enough count, but once again, they disagreed. Now, my add-ons could have been given false information. I could have actually been wrong, but whilst recording this voiceover, I am currently looking at keystones.guru to check the routes. And the percentage of the mob in question gives 2.7%. Exactly what it said in my character panel. Now, of course, this killed the key, which I did actually write in party chat because the tank needs to know their mistake. If some of these things aren't pointed out, then they can't learn from these situations and improve. Now, hopefully what I said in party chat didn't come across as toxic. I simply point out mistakes so that other players can improve. But yeah, unfortunately for the DK, as much as they were a pretty decent tank, that pull killed the key. And of course, the servers shut down. After missing out on that key, plus the Neltharians 20 the dungeon before, those were some pretty heartbreaking runs to end the night. So, Thursday morning arrives. I am incredibly determined to get this done, and I really want to redeem myself for last night's Brackenhide. This one starts off a bit sloppy, and by the second cage we already have 5 deaths. In the previous run we messed up on the percentage, and this time I want to go over it once again. Because there are packs early on for me personally, if I am tanking, I would always take, because it's very good count. The pack after the second cage, for example. Now, this tank wants to skip them and go through the water. I know a lot of groups do this and that's absolutely fine, but that means you have to make up the count somewhere else. And we'll come back to this at the end. So I guess you know what this means. The warband goes down absolutely fine. Same goes for the Treemouth. and we actually managed to skip the Stalker this time. We take down Gutshot and we move on. But this time we're actually interrupting the caller and taking him into the next pack. Always do this, please. Always do this, please. We take down the last boss with a few additional deaths. We have 2 minutes remaining and we need 9%. We rush back to some mobs that we skipped on the way, and now we only have 1.5 minutes remaining. Large AoE damage goes out and it kills off both myself and the hunter. And unfortunately, once again, we just miss out on this one. However, we do get an additional 18 rating for this, so it takes our total score up to 2,491. So we come back to the mobs we skipped at the beginning. It doesn't quite make up for the 9% we were missing, but it obviously means we would have needed a lot less when we finished the last boss. And therefore, we probably could have timed this one. So, hopefully, this last dungeon, an Underop 19, is the last place I need for score and to achieve Keystone Hero. We begin the first pack. I hold off until the Guardian Druid has collected everything, and unfortunately it doesn't start very well because the healer butt pulls the ticks. Divine Storm go burr, so does the tank, and so does the key. Because after repeatedly running back in, we already have 14 deaths and we have failed to take down the first ad pack. I'm completely honest with the group at this point because I really don't want to waste my time. I simply say, yeah, I don't think this is going to happen, guys. They all agree and they leave. Alright, round 2. Let's try this one again, shall we? This one seems to go a lot better, even though the Evoker forgets to press Bloodlust. Unfortunately, both the Warrior and the Evoker die throughout the first ad pack. But just look at that damage, baby. Oh man. Divine Storm, Orc Evoker, I'm in love. Totally not broken, by the way. The first boss goes down absolutely fine, and we are off to a great start. We also had Bloodlust for this, which was really weird. We clear the arena for the second boss, and as the group are asking questions, I start replying in party chat. Can you guys see the green swirly below my feet? Yeah, I died here. Typing kills. Now, because we're saving Bloodlust for the second boss, we decide to go and take down the third boss. This one goes absolutely fine. We take down this boss and we start backtracking towards Cragmore. Now, this boss is kind of make or break. Some groups fall apart and they really can't handle all the ticks. And in a pug group, you really don't know what's going to happen. However, this group, on this occasion, absolutely smash it. We let a few ticks go through, but nothing we can't handle. We take down Cragmore and we have over 12 minutes to finish this key. Was this it? Are we about to achieve Keystone Hero? 2,500 rating? And in 3 weeks, by the way. Yeah, some of you guys in the comments, some of you said it would take me 8 weeks. Come on, man. I'm a melee main. Dilly got this, yo. Sorry, I won't ever say that again. We start making our way to the last boss. And of course, I'm going to show you this pack because Divine Storm, it go burr. I don't think I'll ever stop saying that. We reach the last boss. We have 8 minutes to get this guy down. We take down the first ad. We take down the second ad. We take down the third and final ad. We time this key, it gives us 22 rating, and it takes our total score to 2,513. We did it. We achieved Keystone Hero. And at the end of all that, our total item level is 434. And of course, our Mythic Plus rating is 2,513. So here is where the majority of you will probably click away because the challenge is officially over because we have achieved Keystone Hero, but my Paladin's not finished just yet. And if you want to know my plans for the Paladin, then I guess you got to stick around for the next couple of minutes because Dilly has some questions to answer. Firstly, is the Rep Paladin going to be my new main? Well, this is a tricky one because I've played Demon Hunter since Legion, and even though I've fallen out of love with the Demon Hunter as of lately, I still kind of see this as my main. So I guess for everything in game where reputation comes into it, quest completion and stuff like that, I'm probably going to do all of that on the Demon Hunter and class that as my main for that purpose. But when it comes to pushing Mythic Plus and especially playing with the team, I think I'm just going to do what's needed. And right now, that means playing the Org Evoker. But I think in terms of personal level, I've seen some improvement in myself over the last couple of months. And I feel like most characters I play and enjoy, I should be playing them at a plus 20 sort of level. This includes both the Havoc Demon Hunter and the Rep Paladin. So that obviously means that I want all portals on my Paladin. So that means I need to time all 20s on my Paladin. And that's the plan. Now, I appreciate all the ideas you guys have come up with and all of the things that you would like me to do on the Paladin. I'm probably not going to show all of the portals, all of the timed 20s, but I'm definitely going to go for it. However, this might not be in a pug group, but I do have something very special planned and something hopefully you guys will love and enjoy. Yeah, some of you guys were asking for a pug to 3k, not going to happen. Yeah, sorry. Especially with how the meta is now, it's probably the most broken it's ever been. And I've done my research on this, but unless I'm pushing my own keys, which will be incredibly stressful and time consuming, there is no way a Ret Paladin is going to get taken for 23s. And I honestly do not have the mental capacity to deal with pugs at that level. I can do them on the Org Evoker, no problem, but that's an Org Evoker. Everyone wants an Org Evoker right now. It's so easy to get into keys. But yes, back to the Ret Paladin, I will continue to push keys. I will get all of my portals, and Divine Storm will continue to go burr. If you did enjoy this video, a like would be much appreciated. If you're super excited to see where Zaladar, the Ret Paladin, goes next, then consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out. But that's me done, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ret gang, Ret gang!